I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, Mary Jane, roll call.
Okay. Our mayor is absent tonight. Mayor Pro Tem Jim Garaventa.
Here.
Council members Matt Hawkins.
Here.
Mark Plummer.
Here.
George Segarini.
Here.
City clerk is here. Administrator Tim Miller.
Here.
Our interim city engineer is absent. Attorney Douglas White.
Here.
Fire chief Amy New.
She is absent this evening.
Acting police chief Tuber Vanderwith.
Here.
And community development director Rochelle Kellogg.
Here.
Okay, your report. Item B, city clerk's report on the agenda posting.
At noon on the 4th day of May 2017, the agenda for this meeting was posted outside City Hall for public view.
Okay, thank you. Item C, approval of the agenda. Is there any last minute changes or alterations? Seeing none. Item D, presentations. Introduction of part-time office assistant and accounting technician Celia or Sally Friedley.
Hello. For those of you who don't know, I'm Tracy Skelly and I work in the Human Resources Department. And I'm here today to introduce Celia Friedley. We know her as Sally. She came to us through a temporary agency after several unsuccessful recruitments for a part-time office assistant accounting technician. So we just recently got to hire her on permanently. She was born and raised in Modesto by her parents, Salvador and Celia. She comes from a family of 5 brothers and 3 sisters. She graduated from Thomas Downing High School. She also attended Valley Commercial College, where she earned her certification as a word processing specialist, and she was recognized on the Dean's Honor List. Sally's work background consists of 20 years plus in the mortgage lending and escrow industry. She moved to South Lake Tulloch 8 years ago, where she enjoys spending time with her granddaughters and her family. We are excited to welcome Sally officially to the city of Sonora, where we know that she's already a great addition to the administration department.
Well, thank you. Welcome, Sally.
Excuse me, I have a dumb question to ask. Are you still on the section about public comment on the agenda?
No, we haven't got there yet.
Okay, late, so.
Actually, that is where we're at right now. Item E is public comment for non-agenda items. The public may address the council on any item of public interest not otherwise on the agenda that is within the jurisdiction of the city. No action may be taken. Matters at this point. Matters meant to be addressed may be referred to city staff or placed on a subsequent meeting agenda. Speakers are limited to a 5-minute presentation.
Thank you, Matt. Mayor Pro Tem Garaventa. My name is Sharon Maravich, and I'm here representing the Tuolumne Heritage Committee. The Tuolumne Heritage Committee was sorry to learn of the rear wall failure of an historic building now known as 8189 North Washington Street, or the North Washington Street Apartments that are basically across the street from City Hall. The building dates from the gold rush, and it was a bakery for a while and on the lower floor, and then it was a dance floor upstairs. Not only is it eligible for the National Register, but it's a contributing building to the National Register district that the downtown could become if someone did the paperwork. I had a chance to look at the file of the building and to talk with your building official, Darrell Wardell. He told me that the property owner is seeking engineering help so that the rear portion can be rebuilt and the building stabilized and made safe for public occupancy again. Mr. Wardell assured me that there are no plans to demolish the portion of the building facing Washington Street which shows no sign of failure. Mr. Wardell is familiar with the state historical building code, and he expressed a genuine desire to work with the property owner to return the building to its former productive use. May is National Historic Preservation Month in America, and the theme is This Place Matters. The Tuolumne Heritage Committee wishes to thank the city and Mr. Wardell for their efforts to work with the property owner to repair and preserve this historic building so that it can matter and be a part of our streetscape for many years to come.
Thank you. Is there anyone else like to speak on public comment?
Well, to follow up Sharon a little bit, I'm concerned about the brick wall on Lindenberg Street by the tap room, because there's been an increasing number of lower level bricks that are getting damaged. So my understanding is those original bricks are probably 150 years old, and they've survived much, but apparently not 1 year of the tap room. So I'm concerned that that wall is going to become unstable as more and more bricks are damaged down below, and then we'll have another collapsing wall. So I wish someone would take some interest in that. And then on the second note, the city council here is supposed to be nonpartisan. And it's my understanding that at least 2 members of the council wish to introduce a partisan issue on the next agenda. And I would advise you not to do that. We do not have an issue, I believe, with sanctuary status in this community. We do not have an issue with illegal immigrants being arrested. She immediately went to the county and said it was 1/500th of 1%. He had 5 bookings in 18 months. And out of those 5 bookings, 3 were to 1 person. And when I spoke with the police chief, he said they really haven't had an issue with it in this community. So I would ask you to take your political partisan politics and put them elsewhere, not in front of this council. And then I'm always concerned why crap ends up on the agenda that people from the public aren't coming and asking to be on the agenda, such as that issue. When I've been here for 3 years talking about the garbage and the recycling and the trash downtown. So when is that going to get discussed at the city council instead of at the merchants meetings who do not work for you? We as a community pay $775 for you all to sit there every month. And I'm not getting my $775 worth of service. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else like to speak in public comment?
Hi, Steve Stiles. The property is 16 Ash, the end of the A Street. I've attempted several times to forward the abandonment of the property at the end of the A Street. I was told when I paid off the city's lien that they were actually attempting to auction the property off and include it with the property that I now own. And nothing forwarded on that. I then made an offer that time, received no reply. I then sent a handwritten letter to every individual member of this committee and have yet to receive any information. That was last August. It's been a total of 5 years I've been working on this project. I have a garage which is unusable for a car, and I'd like to go ahead and develop my studio into a 1-bedroom by converting that garage into a kitchen / living room area to enlarge the property a little bit and to build a garage on that piece of property at the end of the 80th Street. But I'm wondering what I can do at this point of the squeaky wheel and keep the public's time with this issue.
I'm under the understanding that there is going to be a public works meeting soon. I'm not sure exactly when that's going to be.
And I'll have the opportunity to be.
I'm sure you'd be notified. Yeah, you'd be notified.
And there's 2 other small issues. Since I heard an issue about the declining historical place around here, the original D&D, which is on the corner of my house over off of Jackson and Zielinski. The wall which supports the building around the outside on the street side is stone or slate, whatever you may call it, and it is popping stones out. It has large ivy growing over it, so it's disguising the actual demise of the wall. But I made an issue to point it out to the lady that runs the Lambert Walk-In Center about the issue, but I noticed they cleaned up around the area, but they haven't done anything as far as supporting that wall. And
Yeah, I don't know whether that's their property or a city wall.
that's what I'm not sure of either. Since I was the state DMV for
Sure.
decades.
It's owned by the county.
It is owned by the county.
It's the county's own.
And one other issue, the street that I live on, Ash, is a dead-end street. And I requested about 3 years ago that they put up a sign noting that the street ends ahead and that there would be a dead-end street, because past me is a dead-end street. A lot of people are stuck turning around, making U-turns, and the two people live back there. People are looking for a way to enter the cemetery, and they're confused, and they're going down that. A lot of people will come down Yaney at the same time and end up in my dead-end area there and having to turn around and find a way to make the corner. I'd like to request that there be signs put up on the previous block that would say road ends ahead. And then on that block, add dead end signs, because at the moment where the dead end is, it's on the wrong side of the road, and it states the road ends ahead, but it doesn't state that it's a dead end road, and there is no exit there. So, and it's on the wrong side of the road. People just don't notice the sign at all, and it's improper information at that point. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you.
Ma'am.
Is there anyone else who'd like to speak on public comment? Seeing none, I'll go ahead and start on number F, or letter F, this consent calendar. Number 1 is approval of the meeting minutes of the City Council open session meeting of April 16th, 2018. And number 2 is approval to pay invoices of previously budgeted expenses on May 8th, 2018. And item 3 is approval of disbursements in the amount of $137,106.01 on April 27th, 2018 for payroll inclusive of employee salaries, employee taxes, and retirement contributions and miscellaneous voluntary employee deductions. So anyone would like, is there any public comment on the consent calendar? Seeing none.
I'll move approval of the consent calendar.
Okay, second. It's been moved by Councilmember Segarini and seconded by Councilmember Plummer. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, passes unanimously. There, Jim. Item G is unfinished business. There is none. Item H is public hearings. And there is one, and it's consideration to introduce and waive the first reading of ordinance number 849, amending section 17.60.040 of the Sonora Municipal Code regarding uses in specific zones related to cannabis businesses. Ms. Kellogg.
Thank you. Normally I do bring ordinances such as this before you, and in this case I am bringing this forward. It came out of the Planning Commission. If you have any specific questions regarding the cannabis ordinance in general in the city, I would defer to our city attorney and our city administrator, because I am definitely not the expert, but I can speak to the ordinance in front of you tonight. We are asking that you we are recommending that you introduce by title ordinance 849 and that you waive the first reading. This ordinance sets the parameters for the requirements for cannabis businesses within the city of Sonora as it relates to zoning districts. It does require that a use permit be obtained with any of these uses in these various zoning districts. I'll read quickly what is allowed in each zoning district, and then I can answer any questions that you might have, and if I can't, I'm sure these gentlemen can. So the way that this ordinance reads, we go through this, a cannabis dispensary, and that's only for medicinal businesses only. And again, they are prohibited from operating within 600 feet of a school, youth center, daycare, church, or park. That's part of the requirement. And they cannot be located within the benefit zone A, which is basically the historic downtown. They would be allowed under a use permit process, and in the CO, which is the tourist and administrative zone, the commercial, which is the C zone, general commercial, CG, and limited manufacturing, the ML zone. Cannabis manufacturing, and that can be for medicinal and adult use businesses. Businesses are again prohibited within that 600 feet of those same uses. And it does provide for volatile and non-volatile business. And that is only allowed in the in-law zone with a use permit. Cannabis testing laboratories, medicinal and adult use businesses allowable. Again, the same prohibition, 600-foot prohibition is part of that requirement as well. And that can only be located in the in-law zone with a use permit. And then cultivation is prohibited under the cannabis ordinance within the city of Sonora. So again, we're introducing this and we're asking you to waive the first reading. The use permit process would follow the same use permit process for any other use permits in the city, and would first be heard by the planning commission, and then move on from there for your guys' approval, because there's other things involved outside of the normal use permit. So if you have any questions related to this, I'll be happy to answer it.
Is there any questions for Ms. Keller?
Shall, under the CEQA determination, last paragraph, because MAUCRSA provides an exemption from CEQA. What the heck is that?
That's going to be a dead question, because that was prepared for us by our attorney.
Medical adult use, I can see that part of it.
There's a CEQA exemption actually in the legislation and in the initiative process. So you do study them when you have the projects, the specific projects, but there's an actual statewide exemption as it relates to these types of ordinances.
Do you know what those letters stand for? Make you earn your money.
I will have to follow up with you. I will find out before the conclusion of the meeting.
But it's the state
I
act.
hope marijuana
Adult use.
I'll find out before this.
And just to add to Rochelle's report, the cannabis businesses and the zoning districts in which they are allowed is incorporated in the previous ordinance the council adopted. This ordinance is to apply another overlay of additional regulation should one of those businesses be permitted or be considered, and that's through the use permit process that the planning commission would consider.
It's the fourth whereas. In the fourth whereas of the resolution, it states it's the
Medicinal
Medical Cannabis Regulation and Safety Act.
there you go. Medicinal and adult use cannabis regulation and safety act.
There we go.
That's good.
One other question. We're exempting Zone A, or prohibiting anything in Zone A. What is Zone B? Where does that come?
Zone B is everything within the city limits outside of Zone A,
Oh,
so
so,
it encompasses the rest of the city.
okay, it's not an extension of historical.
No, it's everything outside of Zone A. There's only 2 zones in the
Okay.
city.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Any other staff? Okay. And I'd like to go ahead and open, see, this is a public hearing, if I'm not mistaken. Do we need for and against, or do we just public comment?
Excuse me?
For or and against, or just in abundance or above, or just public comment? That's fine.
Just allow public comment and we'll bring it back.
Okay. So I'd like to go ahead and get public comment on this item. If anyone would like to have anything to say. Seeing none, go ahead and close the public comment portion of the public hearing and bring it back to the council for discussion and or motion.
I guess one big thing that the public needs to know, because I get this question almost on a daily basis for the first couple months when we were going through our marijuana working group. None of this is for recreational. This is all medicinal and relates to medicinal. So this has nothing to do with recreational use of marijuana. Just medicinal, and it does prohibit businesses from operating within 600 feet of a school, youth center, daycare, church, or park.
I'm assuming you're referring just to dispensaries?
Yes, yes.
Because the manufacturing and the testing have adult use there.
Yeah, I'm talking about the dispensaries and the manufacturing. The manufacturing and the testing are also prohibited within 600 feet.
Okay,
Yes, that's what I was,
okay,
thank you.
sorry. Any other discussion?
Pretty clear.
Okay, then I'd be looking for a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I will move approval of ordinance number 849, amending sections 17.60.040 of the Sonora Municipal Code,
And waive the first reading?
and waive the first reading.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilman Segrini and seconded by Councilmember Hawkins. Is there any further discussion? Call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously, Mary Jane. Okay, that's ends public hearing. Item I is new business. The first item is consideration to allow temporary closure and the possession and consumption and possession of alcohol at Coffell Park on June 9th, July 14th, August 11th, September 8th, and October 13th during the summer concert series sponsored by the Sonora Chamber.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I think this is the third year that the Chamber's proposed their concert series event at Coffell Park. The dates are, as you noted, the park would be closed between 6 p.m. and 10:30 p.m. on those dates. And the music would be available between 8 and 10, so the time before that would be for setup and then clean up afterwards. The city has an ordinance number 827 that does allow, by council approval, the possession and consumption of alcohol within a public park. As I've mentioned, you've considered this request before. The Chamber provides the appropriate security and staffing and entrance monitoring, complies with the ABC licensing requirements. To my knowledge, we have had no issues with our events down at Coffell Park, so we're recommending that you grant the approval that's been requested, with conditions that they provide the required liability insurance, execute an indemnification agreement, staffing as appropriate, and obtain their ABC license and the police department approval, which are conditions that you've imposed in the past. And attached to the staff report is both a letter from the Chamber as well as the first page of their special permit application that they filed as a part of this request. And I would be happy to answer any questions you might have. I think Brian Adcock is here to also answer questions the council may have regarding these events.
Okay, is there any question for Mr. Miller? Or any questions in general before I open it to public? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and open it to public comment. Brian, did you want to say anything?
Definitely. First off, thanks for allowing us to have this concert series again and to put it on your agenda. This is something that the Chamber really enjoyed doing the last few years, and it's an opportunity for getting locals out to the downtown area for a second Saturday, which has been going on for many years. And our goal is to hang on to those people once the second Saturday is done. And as the concert series have been going on for the last few years, we've actually started waiving the fees, making it free to all. We see people come in with dinner, shopping bags from being in the downtown district. So it's a win-win for those businesses and for us, because it fits our mission and our goal to get locals downtown and keep them downtown, spending, eating, and enjoying and having a good time. And the alcohol is what helps cover our costs. We don't charge it over cost. So that helps offset the cost for bands, setup and equipment and whatnot. So we appreciate the opportunity to have this, and it's a lot of fun for us.
Any questions for Mr. Adcox?
Brian, I think I'm right in assuming that the folks that are attending the bar are certified. They have to have excuse me, some sort of certification to do that, right?
That's correct. It's the state certification that is also offered by Black Oak. You can take it online or go out there. Almost the entire board has gone through the certification process. There's a member, actually probably two members of our board behind the bar at all times to be able to ID, and we have our board members at all entrances and exits to block anybody coming in with alcohol or leaving with alcohol.
So they would be able to detect if somebody has had enough beer or wine, and tell them that they're cut off at that point.
Yes, that's a great question, and thankfully during our concert series we have not had to cut anybody off. However, yes, they are trained and willing to do so, because we do not want an incident whatsoever at the event or after, quite frankly.
Thank you.
Questions?
Heretofore, we've had no problems, correct?
I'm sorry?
Heretofore, we've had no problems.
Correct. That's right, Mark.
Okay, I think I would have heard about them, but they've always seemed to flow flawlessly, and I appreciate them a great deal, actually.
Thank you for attending.
Okay.
I guess I do have one question. Last year, I remember coming by a few times. Roughly, how many people attend, like they actually go down into Caulfield Park and basically attend the concert, that type of thing?
Great question. The attendance varies based on band, or how cold it is at night. So we could be anywhere from 50, I've seen close to, of course as a guest, I've close to 100 people down there dancing, but standing room only. So it's, in my opinion, very well attended.
Okay.
And it's nice having the rock out of the middle nowadays.
Oh, God, yes. Okay, thanks. Is there any other public comment?
Well, I think there is a bit of a problem, because if we rent this out and we want to have events there, then we need to clean it up. It's been a human toilet, and that should not be sitting there in front of everybody. Every one of the trash cans is broken, so they leak out onto the sidewalk. And I've seen the healthiest, fattest maggots in those trash cans in Caulfield Park. And I know many times on Saturday the trash cans have not been emptied. I think someone came through a couple weeks ago and cleaned up, but it was like 3 weeks of human waste and dead camellias everywhere. And if we're going to have events there, we need to make sure that the trash is empty and that it's cleaned up before they have their event. Thank you.
Any questions for? Any other public comment? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the council and for further discussion or motion.
I was just going to say I'd like to make a motion.
Before you do, let me just make a comment. Public Works crew had spent several days down there before the Spring Festival, and they have gone through the park and cleaned it up, and they have cleaned up flower beds, provided the bark, pruned trees. We are looking at changing the lighting to something that's more efficient. And I assume they emptied the cans, but if Carol's observations are correct, we'll have those checked. But we spent quite a bit of time in advance of the Spring Festival and in anticipation of these events coming. We monitor it regularly during the summer, so I think the criticism is unwarranted. But we'll check into that one item.
Okay. Any a second? Hadn't had the first yet. I'll hit a motion, but not the actual motion.
Yeah, I like the motion. I can tell Tim was going to say something, so just stop. But I guess I will make a motion to allow temporary closure and possession of consumption of alcohol at Caulfield Park on June 9th, July 14th, August 11th, September 8th, and October 13th during the summer concert series sponsored by the Sonora Chamber.
Your second? Second. Okay, it's been moved by Councilmember Hawkins, second by Councilmember Plummer. Any further discussion?
I got a question on the wording. Consumption and possession of alcohol. Should it not be beer and wine, or does that make a difference?
Their application notes it's beer and wine.
Okay.
If you
Should we include that?
If you would like to.
I'd like to make that.
I would like to amend that then to be beer and wine.
Okay.
So I'm more than happy to second the beer and do.
Okay, all right, so that's all fixed. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Seeing none? Passes unanimously. Item number 2 is discussion and consideration of the city's options related to the homeless task force recommendation to facilitate a countywide task force to develop a countywide plan for homelessness.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I wanted to report to you the committee's action and then get direction from the council, if there is direction, how you might want to proceed or not, or what you want the task force responsibilities to be, if any. And tonight is not an action item, it's to give direction to bring back to you and place on the agenda what you would like to consider. So the recommendation of the task force, and I reflected it as it was related in the meeting, was moved to recommend to the City Council to facilitate a countywide task force, including but not limited to the City of Sonora, Tuolumne County, service providers and local businesses to develop a countywide plan for the homeless. Options that I've listed, and there may be more, but is for us to agendize for a future meeting action regarding the formation of the task force, and or to agendize for a future meeting the role and responsibility of the task force itself. I am aware by reading in the paper that APCA is taking some steps towards, and some others that have been involved, and I don't know the particulars, but taking steps to form a countywide task force committee. So it may become a moot point that the city do anything, but at least you need to give staff direction on to bring back to you what item you might want to consider the recommendation of the task force.
Okay. Does anyone want to weigh in at this point?
Yeah, I'm confused because I read the same thing in the newspaper that Tim read, which seemed like ATCA was taking the lead on this issue, and maybe they are. So does that include a combined city and county effort, or, yeah, I'm just confused on the.
Well, I can report, what I can report is that I've been in some discussion with Raj and a couple people from the county and Tamara also from ATCA, kind of a preliminary where do we go from here type of thing, but it's really not gotten off the ground quite yet. I think, from my perspective, and I don't know if Matt can weigh in on what he thinks from being on the task force itself, the city's task force itself, is that we came to the conclusion quite early that I certainly did, that we weren't really going to get. There are some things we can do that just being a city task force, but most of the issues were needed county participation. And the only really way to do that is having the county at the table. And I think most of the members of the task force kind of are realizing that. If you want to go to my opinion is that I'm not sure we need to stop what we're doing because there may be issues that the city can handle that's only city specific, but to allow this other group to meet and try to see what we can do from a more regional aspect. I don't know if I've been very clear on that.
When we formed the task force originally, my thinking at that point was this needs to be a city-county endeavor to begin with. So I guess it took us a little while to come around and realize that. Has there been any preliminary discussions with the county that they're willing to get together with the city?
Well, not necessarily city, just city and county, but with other agencies, yes. with a, not, you know, more than just the city and county. Yeah. Is there any?
Good, go ahead.
I think there are two facets to this, and as far as fixing homelessness, you probably absolutely must work with the county. I've been somewhat disappointed that because I thought that we were initially forming the homeless task force to deal with the problems, the health and safety issues, the loitering, the shoplifting, etc., that the homeless are causing for the city. And it seemed to me that that is something that is very workable or approachable for solutions from a city perspective. And admittedly, I haven't been to a larger part of the meetings, but from what I've read, it seemed that we have been trying to fix homelessness when, you know, billion-dollar agencies aren't doing a very good job at it. And I think that the task force still can do good work to solve the city's problems and not the homelessness problem. You can say, well, if we can solve the homelessness problem, all the other problems go away. But that's pretty optimistic, because we're probably not going to be able to help cure homelessness as it exists in California.
Okay.
That's
You know, I guess my takeaway from the task force is, quite frankly, it pulled a lot of us together. There was a lot of good input, and quite frankly, there's a big difference between transient and homeless. And something we did find out, working with law enforcement a little bit more, they may have not been homeless. Realistically, there were many that are not homeless. They may appear to be quote-unquote homeless, but they're not. And that tends to be more the issue and where a lot of the issues are coming from. Last count, I believe the pit count was 711. Okay. And with that, I think they said there's about, 45 or 50% is inside the city limits of Sonora, if I remember correctly.
I'm not quite sure the percentage,
But it was interesting working with Jeanette Lambert, going down to the Lambert Center, and just working and talking with her. Several really good things came out that I don't think I quite expected to come out of the task force. Is one, the awareness. Other is the awareness among people who are homeless that aren't causing the issues, to basically, hey, that person over there is making this issue. I mean, I know I talked to several business owners, and they told me the same thing. Hey, we're having less issues because, quite frankly, we're able to call the police, or people are more aware of what's going on, and that was refreshing. But then also there's the other part of 711 in our community are homeless, and the city cannot. I mean, we don't have the financial means, we don't have essentially the manpower to take care of it, and we have to work with the county and other agencies. Raj Redbaum, he has had the experience more of using homeless shelters and working homeless shelters with success. And I feel that if it does end up going to ACCA, I think that's where we're going to have the most success, as long as the city and the county and other agencies have that input.
Okay.
But again, I think first and foremost, it really had a lot of awareness coming out of that group. And homeless, transients, everyone else in between, I think were more aware of what was going on and issues and where some of it stems from, whether it be a hard time, mental issues, drug issues, what have you.
Well, I think we're kind of getting a little, we're kind of discussing some things that we actually should be agendizing to discuss. Whether we're talking more about the task force and its viability and all that stuff, and that seems to be, we should be discussing whether we want to agendize and talk about whether go over these three options. So I kind of want to bring it back to that. I also want to get public input at this point. Jim, I thought you maybe noise. I thought you were going to say something. I'd like to go ahead and open it to public discussion. And what we're kind of doing is not necessarily mentioning, not necessarily talk. The way this is agendized is that it's what's going to happen with the city's task force, basically, and we're kind of talking about how to talk about that more than we are if I'm reading this correctly. Am I reading this correctly? Okay. All right.
You're all good.
Okay. We're kind of going over how we're going to discuss the future of the task force rather than discussing the future of the task force. If that makes sense. So if anyone would like to come up and speak on public comment, please do so. Sir.
My name is Richard Darrow. I live in Jamestown. I think it's embarrassing to witness what happened with the task force. They spent months working on this project, and then at the end of the time they said we're going to turn it back to the community. I think that's crazy. Anyway, there's several groups, including ATCA, and I'm not going to go into all the charitable organizations that are in this community, are all concentrating and working on this problem. And I think the city ought to get behind the county and tell them you're fully supporting them in order to move this ahead. I don't see kicking this down the road any further than it has been done so far. There's a lot of community support right now, and it's time to take advantage of it. There's been some successes that have taken place. They've built 3 dumpsters from trash off of Stockton Road. They had a Step the Bus project to get clothing for the homeless. That was successful. There's a lot of things going on that are positive. I think we got to get behind them and support it.
Any questions for Mr. Darrow? Anyone else like to speak on this item? No. Okay. Bring it back to the council.
Mr. Mayor, I guess Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, I guess I should say. I want to, Matt, clarify a statement that you made, because I don't understand it. You said that there are homeless people that appear to be homeless out there but are not homeless.
Yep.
Can you clarify what you mean by that?
Be glad to. Basically what happens, my working with the homeless, and I've done actually a good bit of it, what happens is you'll have several people sharing an apartment. One of these individuals work with me at Walmart, and basically what happens is they don't have a whole lot of money. They're sharing an apartment, maybe 3 or 4 other people, and quite frankly, some of them tend to lack in hygiene, bad clothes and that sort of thing. And a lot of times there's that stigma. There are others that are fortunate enough to, again, share a room with someone else, but they will, again, for whatever reason, it doesn't click. They're not shaved and that sort of thing. And I've talked to a few of these people, and they appear to be homeless. They appear to be transients when in reality maybe they're getting a Social Security check, that sort of thing, and they're kind of hanging out. That was one of the comments I got several of the comments I got from downtown businesses. Hey, I've got this guy hanging around. No, he has a house, or he's living somewhere.
Thanks.
Okay.
On clarifications, how would you like to explain to me the difference between homeless and transient? Because the impression I get is that homeless are the innocuous ones who don't seem to be violent or aren't causing much in the way of problems, And transients are all the rest. And as somebody who cares a lot about languages and has learned a couple, it just doesn't make sense to me. Transient means they're coming through, they're passing, and they might spend a day or two. And those aren't the people that are included in the 710 fit count. So who are these transients? Are they the 50% that come from somewhere else, for whom I feel a little less obligation to help? See, I think that we ought to be prioritizing the moms with children living in cars and say we're going to help them regardless. Adult men living outside under a bridge or in a camp have largely, made choices that they continue to make and are going to keep making to live that way. But these moms, I think, should be getting priority. They're not transients.
Mark, now we're actually discussing something that we're
Okay.
supposed to be agendizing.
What's transient? Sorry.
Here's what I think I've heard. The council needs to, or wants to, define its role as either a participant in some larger organization that may be formed, or as the facilitator to create that organization. So that's a decision that we can put on the agenda for discussion. If what's being talked about moves forward and we're one of the participating agencies, that's fine. Or if the council feels it's your role to take the lead and make that happen, then that's another choice. So we can agendize that discussion if that's what you want to do. And then with regard to the task force role, they did consider the issues the merchants brought up and the opportunities there were for enforcement and the options that there were for enforcement, and did not provide any direction to do anything different than what is currently provided by either state law or local ordinance. And that was everything from loitering to dog wasting, a variety of things that were talked about. If the council wants the task force to continue their discussion further about those matters, then that can be an action on an agendized item if you want to have that on your agenda as well. What we need to know is where do you want to go from here? And give us some direction, we'll get it on the agenda, and you can then take some formal action at that time.
Okay.
I have an opinion, but I think it would be more useful to hear from the people who have been on the task force first.
Okay. Well, I'm of the opinion that I don't want to stop the task force and disband it in case there are issues in the future that are city-centric that that task force can handle. However, I don't see a need for it necessarily to continue to meet while this other effort is going on. I think what Tim needs to know is, does the council want or need a role in how, a formal role in how that group is being formed? And Connie and I are both meeting right now, and it's still in its kind of infancy, and I'm not sure that that's something that we probably need to bring back at some point, but I'm not sure that we necessarily need to agendize what that entity is going to end up being
We can
at this point.
We can do nothing for the moment and wait and see what happens with that.
I think that's probably, in my opinion, that's the best thing to do.
When you said that group, you mean the one that you say ATCA is spearheading?
Yes.
Okay. And that would include the county then already?
Yes.
Okay.
And
I agree with you, Jim. I said that actually in our last homeless task force meeting, that we need to keep the group together even if we're not meeting, because there are issues that may be specifically for the city.
George, do you have anything to weigh in? No, that sounds good to me. Do you have any? You have this team look on your face. Huh?
To do nothing at this point.
Well, yeah, in my opinion, yeah, because I don't think you want to talk about disbanding the task force because there might be issues coming up that are for the city. I don't think you really want to talk about a formality of what the city's role in this future task force, global or regional task force, because that hasn't even been really spelled out yet by the group that's trying to bring that together.
Well, then my confusion that I originally started out with this discussion tells me that we don't do anything at this point. There are still things that are falling into place.
Mark?
Aside from everything I've already said, as far as helping the homeless and the homeless problem, or the problem of homelessness and not the problems they cause, that we should at least in some way give moral support to. I mean, say, that we're in support of this, and I don't know how that relates to the staff question, but that we do support a countywide effort, because the city alone is not going to do very much. And see, I support the concept anyway of the task force working with, or the city task force working with whatever is forming, because they are going to be bringing forward the low bar camps probably. Maybe the one that Raj liked a lot, where they take the most expensive consumers of costs and the high bar, so to speak, and just give them homes. I don't know what their projects are, but I think the city ought to be involved with that in the direction that the task force appears to have been going, which is to try and fix the problem. And maybe it's too early, this is why I'm talking about moral support, but I think that the city ought to be involved with that. But I haven't been on the task force, I can't speak when I have been able to come, so I've only been able to make 2 of the meetings. So I really don't know where we've gone, and I haven't talked with anyone because I don't want to violate the Brown Act.
No, clearly, sure. That you appreciate it. Yeah, I understand that. I think I understand that you want to lend moral support and assume at some point when the council would lend support to this new effort. I just think it's a little early to do that right now.
Okay, and this is why I deferred to having you guys speak first in the first place, because you know what's going on, and I am not completely residing in ignorance, but not nearly as up to speed.
Well, and like I said, it's very early in that process too, so it's hard for me to say what exactly is going on. So
I mean, it would seem then the prudent thing to do is to wait and see how the other effort evolves, and once there's some understanding of that, then we can agendize what we need to agendize at that point.
yeah, that
seems fine with me.
Yep. Okay. There we go. Item number 3. Of new business, consideration to authorize the mayor to sign a letter on behalf of the city committing to maintaining the current staffing levels of the fire department during the period of performance for the 2017 SAFER grant. Is that going to be?
Yes. Fire chief is not here today, so this is a letter that has been requested of the city previously on prior SAFER grant applications. It is that basically, they convince the city that if the grant is awarded and we hire someone in that grant position, we don't cut other staff to save money by eliminating current positions, so we've got to maintain the existing staffing level. The grant would be for a 3-year period. There's obligations of cost sharing of 25% for the first 2 years and 65% for the third year. As these grants have evolved over the years, those ratios have changed, but that's what it is in this current cycle. So we have filed the application, and one of the requirements for the application filing is the letter that's attached. So we would ask council that by motion authorize the mayor, or in the mayor's absence, Mayor Pro Tem to sign the letter on behalf of the city.
Any questions for staff? Is there any public comment? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the council.
I move that.
Go ahead.
Who wants to?
I move to authorize mayor or in absence Mayor Pro Tem to sign the letter on behalf of the city committed to maintaining the current staffing levels of the fire department during the period of performance for the 2017 SAFER grant.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilmember Plummer to sign, have the mayor sign the letter, and seconded by Mr. Segrini. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Unanimous, Mayor Jean. Okay, item J, monthly reports. There are none. Item K is Vision Sonora Committee report. There is none. Item L, communications. There are none. Item M, council member and department head reports. Let's start with Community Development Director, Ms. Kellogg.
Keep this short, but I did want to remind you that on the 19th is the first farmers,
Is the what?
first farmers market.
Yeah.
So May 19th. So mark the calendar, 7:30 in the morning, and so we can add the roundup.
We'll finally get croissants again in the morning.
There you go. So anyway, I just want to let you guys know.
Okay, thanks. Police Chief, Mr. Redwell. Police Chief, right here.
Yeah, just quick notice that this Thursday, the Peace Officer Memorial to the county level will be observed at the fairground, 10 o'clock, and noon on the 10th, by the theater building, same place as last year.
Okay, thank you. Do we have anybody from the fire department? That was it, okay. Where are we here? Mary Jane, do you have anything?
I don't, thank you.
Our esteemed attorney, Mr. White.
Just one item I wanted to bring to your attention. It's Senate Bill 1302, something we're watching carefully. Much like we talked about during the cannabis discussion, this would be the first piece of legislation that I'm aware of that would allow for statewide distribution of cannabis through delivery services, both recreational and medical. So, as we kind of discussed about the possibility of the loss of local control going into this, and why we wanted to get ahead of this, and why we would have the tax potentially put on the ballot. These are the types of reasons because we don't have control necessarily over what happens in the state legislature or at the statewide ballot box. So again, for those watching it, that's Senate Bill 1302.
Thank you. Mr. Miller?
Just to remind everyone, it's Roundup weekend, parade on Saturday, rodeo Saturday and Sunday, other events is planned, so hope to see you all downtown for the parade.
Thank you. Start over this side, Councilmember Hawkins.
On the 28th, I attended the Coffee and Cars down in the high school parking lot. It was a senior project for a senior there, and I'm not sure how much he raised, but it was a good deal of money, pretty well attended. Also on the 28th, got to do a ride-along with the police department. That was very good, and we have a very professional department. And then coming up this Friday has been a year since I have not been homeless. And I'm more than willing to talk about that very, very much now. But I was one of those couch surfers essentially due to no fault of my own. And even though I did have a home to go to, I couldn't go to it, if that makes sense. So I'm celebrating this Friday as being a year, being in my house. So anyway, that's all I have.
Okay. Councilmember Plummer.
I have nothing to share this evening.
Okay. Councilmember Sigurini.
Yeah, on the 25th, we held the Town Hall Merchants Meeting. There was discussion about the cleanliness of downtown Sonora. There were some suggestions made on how we might begin to address this, and there's going to be some meetings set up with some merchants downtown to discuss the issue. Hopefully, we can come to some conclusions and ultimately bring it back to the City Council for discussion and see what the heck we want to do with that, or what you guys want to do with that at that point. On the 30th, I attended the affordable housing program that was put on by the Economic Development Authority at the Black Oak Casino. That was interesting. Not a whole lot of solutions came out of it, in my opinion, but it was interesting to hear folks. And then that afternoon, we had the ribbon cutting at the Cancer Center that was attended by a lot of folks. And very impressive building that they have constructed in our small community there. It's amazing. And that's it.
Okay. And the only thing I was going to report was I also attended the ribbon cutting. Leave it to it for behalf of the rest of us that were there. So if there's no other business, I'm going to go ahead and adjourn the meeting.
So Tim, you let me have